Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. And good Wednesday morning. I'm Brian Winnikins. We continue this week our focus on Val-O-Mo Farms just outside of O'Galley with Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. Again, thank you to Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin for supporting our spotlights. I'm with Ted Weinzierl now, and Ted's the guy. He's kind of the crop guy. So we're going to talk with a little bit about how the farm protects the soil and even the water as well. But so you're not doing the cow thing, huh?
Oh, we all do our part around here. There's plenty of vaccinations to go around for everybody to get into the barn and get dirty once in a while. So,
and get dirty. I like that. And get dirty once in a while. So, tell us about how many acres you have to farm here to help support the cattle.
So currently, to feed the cows, between rent and owned, about 1,400 acres it takes to feed these animals. Nearly all of it comes and goes to the bunks, and in one way or form gets turned into milk production.
So do you have the very light soil out here, don't you?
No, actually, I would say half and half. The farm here is right around the homestead is 400 to 500 acres here, and a good majority of it is drain tile. This is heavy clay soil. A lot of this was actually marshland area right out here in front of the buildings. So,
okay, now because of that, are there certain things you do on the fields to protect that soil? Even though it's heavy, it, again, though, can be subject to runoff. So what are some of the things you do with your crop production to help protect that soil?
You know, we should probably start right from the beginning about kind of how everything works here, and that's this place or this driveway. If you took a step back and looked at what we do, we have two products that leave here. We have fertilizer that leaves, and we have milk that leaves the farm. The whole thing is almost a big practice in recycling, and that we go out, and I guess if you want to look at it from the get-go, you plant the crop, you harvest it, you store it, and we feed it to our animals, and these dairy cows then are producing milk and beef. And the counterproduct to that is, of course, the fertilizer or manure that ends up in the pit, and that then again goes back to producing that crop again. It's just a kind of endless circle endless cycle that keeps going on. So in doing that, we obviously want to maximize the production from our crops to get the most feed we can to feed these cattle, but you have to do it in a responsible manner. And
the big thing is if you aren't taking care of that land, you're not going to generate the crops to feed the cows to make the milk and beef. So if you don't take care of that out there, you're going to be in trouble back here on the farm.
Correct. You don't want to stub your toe and end up tilling a bunch of land or applying too much manure to a field and then end up hurting your crop, because in that you might end up with a year with a lot of winter kill or a dry summer and your alfalfa crop isn't good. And you always have to be worried about in the back of your mind whether or not you're going to have enough feed to feed these cattle. And Dad kind of alluded to it too. We're in a environmentally sensitive area. We have the lake, or what used to be and is the O'Galley watershed, just a half a mile to our east, and to our west we have the Little Missouri Creek and the Big Missouri Creek.
And you mentioned that's kind of the story behind the name of the farm, Val-O-Mo.
It is, yeah. We're in the valley of the Missouri Creek, so the hyphenated name of the farm is Val-O-Mo, Valley of the Missouri. So
because of the environmental sensitivity here, you do a lot of no-till, I would bet.
We do. The farm is, we call it 100% no-till. We're allowed to go out and till 10% of the field if need be, because we're out there with big machinery. You're taking corn silage off or applying manure to the fields, and sometimes you got to be out there and things get rutted up, or they the headlands get roughed up. So we're allowed to go out and get maybe up to 10% of the field smoothed back up. So
And for those that are unfamiliar, no-till means you're not plowing everything up. When you cut that corn, you just leave it, and then the next year you just plant right over that, correct?
correct. So right now we have a bin down here down in our feed center that's, I think we have 15 ton of rye seed in there waiting, and as we harvest the corn silage crop, we bring that in. As soon as that's cleared off and time allows it, we're right back in there with the drill, and we go right into those corn stalks, stubble, and drill in the rye and get that coming as soon as we possibly can to conserve the moisture in the ground and to hold the topsoil where it needs to be. So
Now, do you use the rye for anything else next spring when it's now growing again and before you have to plant the corn? Do you harvest that to use it anywhere on the farm or to try to sell it?
So now, in our case, since the young stock leave the farm, we don't have a purpose for any other crop other than alfalfa, soybeans, and corn. Those are the primary crops that we feed to the dairy cattle, and we don't have the young stock to feed that to. We do need bedding, and we do need rye seed then again for the next year. So out of that, the majority of that crop will get terminated, and then we no-till plant back into that then again next spring. And we may save 15 or 20 acres. That's a pretty small amount that we'll save for bedding and seed then for the upcoming year then.
Talking with Ted Weinsrow with Val-O-Mo Farms this morning. How often do you rotate? People always have asked me this, why do you, one year it's alfalfa, or maybe a few years it's alfalfa, then all of a sudden it turns into corn for maybe a year, and then it's soybeans, and then it's back to alfalfa. Why do you do that?
Maybe our agronomist just wants to keep it interesting. No, it's typically we would like to have alfalfa. It's an expensive crop to establish, and it's a perennial crop. So that alfalfa, we generally like to keep it for 1 year as its seeding year and 3 to 4 year as established. So 3 to 4 years, I would say, on an alfalfa crop is pretty good. So a typical rotation for us would be 4 years alfalfa, then you maybe no-till right into that, corn silage, and you would, or grain corn, and after following the corn, you go beans, and then maybe right back to alfalfa again. It's easier to establish a stand of alfalfa that's really tiny seeds into like bean stubble than it would be into corn stalks. So there is kind of a method to the madness, and alfalfa and beans are legumes. They add nitrogen to the soil, so you can get a nice yield bump when you end up rotating those crops. If it was corn on corn on corn, you would get kind of a steady state production where you're just kind of run into a ceiling and you just can't gain anymore. And if you rotate that out, you can get rid of some of maybe the insects that were bugging that crop or some of the disease that were bugging that crop, and you can break up that cycle of pests or plants that would be bothering that crop. So
I guess before we let you go, you're getting ready to cut for corn silage, and for those that, again, may not, this is different than harvesting just the corn. You're cutting everything and using that for your feed. Leaves, stalk, the whole bit when you cut for corn silage, right?
Yeah, you get your most tonnage per acre by producing corn silage. I mean, alfalfa will not produce per acre what corn silage will on just a tonnage basis. And corn silage is a good crop to grow because you get your forage needs, the roughage for the cow, and you get the grain needs for all at once.
Do you harvest any for just the corn and try to sell that, or add it to what you feed the cows, or is it all pretty much corn silage?
It's pretty easy to see what we feed down here. You can take a tour of the feed center, and we have 5 bunker cells down there. Bunk 5 is high moisture corn. Now that's when you would see a combine in the field, and it takes just the ear, and we grind the corn and put it in the bunk. So that bunker is just ground corn or ground high moisture corn. The next bunker down the line, bunk 4, that's haylage. We harvest that all summer, and it takes a few months to do that, 4 months to do that. We get everything built up for a full year's supply of haylage. And then this time of year is a big time of year for us because 80% of what our cows eat is corn silage, or 75% of it.
What about the soybeans?
Soybeans too. We do grow soybeans. Ours aren't fed right to our cows. We sell ours in town, and we actually replace that protein with canola meal. Some guys feed high pro or protein, and some guys feed canola meal. We feed canola. We just feel like it gives us a better milk components from the cows, and it seems to increase their dry matter intakes and such. So we grow soybeans, sell them, trade those in for canola meal. Both proteins both cows can eat. But
talking with Ted Weinzierl this morning with Val-O-Mo Farms, as we feature Val-O-Mo Farms all this week with Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin tomorrow. Ted kind of alluded to it. This is one big giant recycling center, and we'll tell you how much they recycle water and what they do to protect the water as well. It's pretty amazing. We're going to talk a little bit with Ted about that here coming up as we highlight Val-O-Mo Farms with Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. I'm Brian Winnikins. This is WRDN.